Hello, I'm Joshua Singer, and today I'd like to give you a brief introduction to what machine learning is and how it's useful in our everyday lives. First off, you have this very big number, 3.5 billion Google searches per day. Okay, this is an example of big data. It means that we have large amounts of data to process, and we need to make meaningful inferences based off this data. But big data isn't necessarily so scary as it seems. Big data really means that we need to process data in meaningful ways that will have impacts that can help everyone out. Okay, now we're going to talk about machine learning and what it really is. It comes from this need to answer this essential question, which is, how can we make a computer do human-like behaviors? We need computers to be able to process large amounts of data to make inferences that are useful and are meaningful in our everyday lives. But how are we able to do this, and what does this mean for us? We're going to look at a simple algorithm. In this graph, we have price versus durability. On the lower half, we have objects with lower prices and lower durability. And on the upper half, we have items with higher prices and higher durability. The computer is able to discern where these items are grouped and how they should be placed in relation to each other, because they're very distinct and it's easy to see. However, when we introduce an item that isn't clearly in one group or the other, the computer has a bit harder time in learning how to discern which group this item should be placed in. In this example, the computer will draw small circles and continually draw larger and larger circles until it is able to find out that this item should be categorized with the upper group, because this is most similar to items in that group. This is an example of running a k-nearest neighbors algorithm on a data set. In this example, we saw that new data points are put into groups with most similar traits to them. This helps us make meaningful inferences based off the data that will be helpful to us. Okay, now we're going to talk about different types of machine learning and how they're useful. There are two major different categories of machine learning. We have supervised learning, in which the data points are known and the responses to each of those data is very clear, and the machine is able to discern where these responses lie and how they should be placed in relation to each other. We also have unsupervised learning, in which the labels are unknown, and it isn't really clear how the data affect each other and what the data really is. In our previous example, this was an example of supervised learning, because we were able to see that there is clearly labeled vertex axes in which we had price and durability, and the machine was also able to tell what the relationship between the two different data points was. Okay, but what's the big deal about machine learning, and how is it useful to us? Whenever we think of machine learning, we tend to think of AI and like futuristic forms of machine learning in which we can develop some sort of machine that is able to be sentient and have emotions like human beings. However, this isn't necessarily true, because we already have machine learning that is present in our everyday lives. Some examples of this are Google's PageRank system, in which Google is able to tell you which items are most relevant to you based off factors such as your search history and your location. It is able to filter out all these different responses to the same search and see which one is most likely that you're looking for. Another example of this is scam phone calls. You probably realize by now that there isn't some directory of scam phone calls, and the computer doesn't automatically know if a phone number is trying to scam you. However, the machine is able to tell if a phone call is scam based off the caller's history, and if they called multiple amounts of different people, and none of those people have picked up, then the computer is able to tell that this phone call is likely scam, and you probably don't want to pick it up. Another example that you've probably used is online shopping. In online shopping, you probably search for something, and then you're surprised to find that there's something else that is also relevant. The computer is able to tell what items are most relevant to you based off items you bought before, and what other people buy based off those items too. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at jjsinger@ucsd.edu.